Alright then, back with another video. So roughly 2 years ago at CES of 2018, EVGA showed off some new power supply models in their high-end lineup. The most notable one was probably the 2200 watt platinum rated power supply unit. And later on the same year at Computex they showed off even more models that would come out to the market soon. And one of those is the one you see on the video right now. So today we will be doing a short unboxing and overview of the EVGA SuperNova 2000W G+. So this is a cold rated 2000 watt power supply unit. I was really excited about the 2200 watt platinum rated unit back then when it was showcased, but we didn't really hear any new information about those new units since that. I still hope they will release the 2200 watt platinum rated unit to the market at least later, but even so the gold rated 2 kilowatt unit should be very good, as many of the EVGA power supplies are actually rebranded Superflow units, so the quality is usually very good. And well, I was a bit amazed that this is not a platinum or titanium rated unit at 2000 watts, because for example the Superflower LeadX 8-pack 2000 watt unit, which I have been running for some time, is a platinum rated unit, and it came out in early 2015, so like 5 years ago, or even a bit above 5 years. But anyways, I think this is still very good and very capable power supply to run like mining rigs with multiple graphics cards, even extreme overclocking scenarios, and really high-end desktop systems like 28-core Xeon plus 1 or 2 2080 Ti's, or the new 64-core Threadripper from AMD with one or 2 2080 Ti's, for example. When it comes to extreme overclocking, 2080 Ti can really draw a lot of power in short peaks. For example, my Seasonic 1300 watt platinum rated unit cannot run like 1900K plus 2080 Ti both on LN2 in 3D Mark Vantage. It always triggers OCP somewhere during the graphics test too, even though the constant power draw isn't that high, because for example 3D Mark Vantage is really easy to cool. The graphics card is very easy to keep at steady temperature compared to newer tests, but there are some very short high voltage peaks where it triggers OCP. So, and that's a single rail 12 volt unit. So you really need a very high voltage unit to run the most high-end modern hardware on LM2 and even on water if you have multiple cards installed. But anyways, so that's the background, and you can easily note from the get-go that this is a 230 volt unit only. So that means this power supply is only meant for the EU market mostly. So sadly, if you live in, for example, in Mexico, United States, Japan, Taiwan, even some parts of Brazil, I think, which have 110 volt mains, well then sadly you cannot use this power supply unit from a single, from your standard outlet. So you need 220 to 240 volt outlet to run this power supply unit. So that's the background, but it's quite obvious. You cannot really run this high voltage or like electronic device that uses so much current from a single 110 volt mains outlet. So just saying. So let's check what are the features on the background of the box and then do short unboxing. I know power supply videos are quite boring on YouTube because personally I don't have any proper testing gear to test power supplies, so we cannot really test what are the exact overcurrent protection levels where it will shut down the unit, and what are like the ripple voltages at different current loads. But we can at least take a look at the unit, what comes with the unit, and like how it looks overall. So if we take a look at the back side, we can quickly note that this is a single rail 12 volt unit. So that's the one we want for like proper overclocking situations. We really want the strongest possible 12 volt rail to run the most high-end parts like CPUs and graphics cards with least overcurrent protection issues. So the 12-volt rail can supply 166.6 amps officially on paper. That is really huge amount. The 3.3 volt and 5 volt rails can supply 25 amps. So 150 watts for those rails. I'm not sure if that's combined or individually for both. And 2000 watts on the 12 volt rail. So that's definitely a lot, to say the least. And then we're looking at the overall features, which are listed over here. So fully modular design, as you could expect. 100% Japanese capacitors, stable power with very low electrical ripple and noise. Most of the main protection features what you would expect to be present on a unit like this. So OPP, over voltage protection, under voltage protection, short circuit protection, overcurrent protection, and over temperature protection. Provides up to 166.6 amps on the 12 volt rail, so 2000 watts. An ultra quiet 2 ball bearing 140 millimeters fan. Not sure if you can run it in semi-passive mode or not, but for me personally, not a big thing. Power supply fan noise was never that big of an issue for me, but that's always kind of personal thing. Tight voltage regulation within 2%. Active power factor correction. So DC to DC converter, and Intel Haswell ready. Well, all of the power supplies can run Haswell and newer platforms anyways. SLI/Crossfire ready, and so on. So, and 10-year warranty, that's really good value. So EVGA warranty has always been outstanding. So 10 years is really long time. So if you buy a unit like this, you can pretty much keep going on with it for like at least a decade. Power supplies don't really change that much over the years. And when looking at the cables, you have two 8-pin 12 volt CPU power cables. So that's a bit sad, because when thinking what kind of CPUs we have on the market right now, we have the 28-core Xeon plus the 64-core Threadripper from AMD. It would have been nice to finally see a power supply unit that has more than two 8-pin CPU power connectors. Because, for example, the SR3 Dark can run 4 8-pin CPU power connections for the CPU. And the graphics card combinations have actually come down during the recent years. So we don't really have those 3-way and 4-way SLI systems anymore. We only have single card and 2-way SLI pretty much. Because with maximum of 2 cards you have the least amount of problems when it comes to like compatibility in like overall use and tests. 3-way and 4-way aren't really supported anymore. Of course you need more than 4 or 6 PCI Express power connectors when you want to run multiple cards for mining purposes, but that's probably the only use really. So we have 4, I think that's 4 single cable PCI Express power cables and 6 times 2 times 8 PCI Express power cables. So that means you have 12 plus 4, so 16 8-pin VGA PCI Express power cables. That is really a lot. So 16, most of the time the cards have had like 2, or well, nowadays the high-end models have 3. So you could run, technically you could run 5 2080 Ti Kimping cards from this single unit when it comes to, I mean, like connector wise. So 15 on the cables, on the cards themselves, plus single extra supplementary power connector for the like the motherboard PCI Express bus. So that's really a lot. So you can run pretty good mining rig from this single power supply unit. And the overall interest when it comes to power supply market has been on the very high wattage units in the recent years because of the big like cryptocurrency boom of 2017 when Bitcoin went to like 20,000 US dollars. The stores were pretty much out of stock of high-end graphics cards and really high wattage power supply units because you don't really have that much use in mining rigs, when it comes to like 400, 500 watt and 600 watt power supply units, the highest wattage power supplies are the most interesting or most wanted ones for mining rigs. So the main focus when it comes to like consumer PC power supplies has been on the high wattage units in recent years, if you ask me. So yeah, 24-pin, 2 8-pin CPU power connectors, 16 PCI Express power cables in total, 2x5 SATA cables, 2x4 SATA cables, so that's 9 SATA power cables in total, and 2x4 Molex cables, so you have 2 cables that connect to the power supply, and both of them have 4-pin Molex power connectors to run your like fans and similar, and then just one floppy drive power connector. So quite standard connections if you ask me. So that's pretty much it. The overall features look alright. 10-year warranty is definitely amazing. Not sure about the does the fan run in semi-passive mode. I'm not completely sure about that, but let's open the box and see. Let's see what comes inside the box and how the overall cables and the whole unit looks like. So that's what you get inside the box. So we have the 2000 watt power supply unit itself, all the cables, instruction or guide manual, and you have the 24-pin jumper connector, which is very nice that they actually include this with the unit. So the guide booklet is pretty much the same for the 1300 watt, 1600 watt and 2000 watt gold rated power supply units. The cables themselves, they feel alright. They are not individually braided, so they just have a single braiding around the entire cable set, but they are quite easy to bend and long enough, so they seem much better than those power supply cables of the old NMAX units, like the Max Revo series that came out like I think in 2011. They had really bad cable braiding. They were so hard to bend. I didn't like them at all. So this seems alright. They are not individually braided, so there's no braiding around each cable, but I think this looks definitely alright, and they are black, so it should fit many color schemes, and you get a ton of those PCI Express power cables. So six VGA PCI Express power cables that split into 2, so 6 times 2, so 6 times 2 times 8, and then 4 of these cables that are like single 8 to 8 VGA PCI Express power cables, like this one over here. So this is single 8 to 8 pin connector. So you get those. The 24-pin jumper connector is really nice. So you can use this to pre-test your parts, or pretty much to pre-fill your water cooling loop if you want to run custom water cooling loop. So you can fill the water cooling loop and test that are there any leaks before you actually turn on any of the actual parts. So that's really nice. This is something that every, at least very high-end power supply unit should have combined with the retail packaging. So use this if you will be running custom water cooling loop to test if there are any leaks. And also, if you use this power supply as a slave unit, so if you run more than one supply, if you run more than one power supply for like extreme overclocking situation, you can force the second power supply to always be turned on, and by using that 24-pin jumper connector, or you could use this as a separate power supply unit to run the like for example the Kimping Cooling Inferno heating units constantly on, even when you like change parts or you do something when the overclocking rig itself has been turned off. So that's really nice. So those are pretty much the cables and accessories that you get with the unit itself. And this is the actual unit. So size-wise, it is definitely larger than the Seasonic 1300 watt unit, but I think it's a bit smaller than the Superflow Elitex 8-pack unit. Around the same size as the 8-pack unit, or a tiny bit smaller. Here's the 140mm fan. The power supply model logo is on both sides of the unit, and the main wattage and current values per rail are mentioned on both sides, plus the 80+ gold rating. When looking at the input side of the power supply unit, we have the AC switch over here, plus this eco mode. I'm not fully sure what this eco mode does. Is this like the semi-passive mode on the fan, but it's off by default. And when looking at the output end of the power supply, we can see the 24-pin connection, the 2 8-pin CPU connections, 6 peripheral connections, so SATA, Molex and so on, and 10 VGA PC Express power connectors. So 16 8-pins in total. That's really huge amount. So definitely this power supply is ready for high-end mining rigs, high-end desktop use and so on. So that's pretty much how the EVGA SuperNova 2000W G+ power supply unit looks like. So if you have any questions or comments about this power supply unit, what you think about it, I have no idea about the final retail pricing of this unit, but I would expect it will cost at least 350 euros here in Europe. 350 to 450 plus, because the 1600W titanium rated one costs around like 400 to 450 euros. And it's already listed at the Asia version of EVGA's website, but there's no price. So I think it will be listed at the website very soon. And I'm not sure if it will be for sale on like normal retail stores or only like EVGA direct sale. I'm not sure. But yeah, so I still hope the 2200W platinum rated one will come out later, but I think this will be also very strong unit. So yeah, if you have any questions or comments, drop them down below, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.